Welcome to the magical world of numbers. I am your tour guide, Elizabeth Summers, esoteric numerologist and medium. And when we finish our travels in this moment of time, you will know a lot about how numbers as codes say a lot about you. I want you to keep in mind that numbers have no power. They are codes of information. Various peoples, various civilizations throughout time has had their own system of code interpretation. Today I'm going to talk to you about Western numerology, developed 2,600 years ago by a highly evolved kind of spiritual big guy by the name of Kuthumi, who came to humanity, took the name of Pythagoras, yes, of geometry fame, and he and his students developed a code system that we today call numbers 1 through 9. Each number represents personalities, issues, themes, behaviors. So many people have an idea that they are only one number, but you are a composite of number codes. The numbers represent information, and this is what I want to be sure that you understand, that it is the information that the numbers represent that empowers you, that gives you insight, that leads you forward in your life. Think of a house. I like to use the metaphor of a house. In a house there are many rooms, and each room has its own function. You have aspects and pieces of you that have functions that these numbers represent. For instance, when we add together your month, day, and year of birth, you get what is called a life lesson or a life path number. And this is what everybody adds together on the internet and comes to me and says, I'm a 3, I'm a 2, I'm a 6. No, you're not. That number, that is the final total of your month, day, and year of birth, that life lesson number, is like your plot line for this incarnation that you have decided to improve upon. It is the number one issue that your soul has decided to improve upon. And therefore, a lot of times, careers can be decided upon according to whatever that particular number is. For instance, if a number is a 4 and an 8, or an 8, that is management, that is planner, that is builder, that is structured. And a lot of times, your soul will keep you on a career path all along those lines in some capacity. I am an esoteric numerologist, which is a fancy word that says I use Western numerology, Chaldean numerology, 5,000-year-old systems. I use astrology in my readings. I use ancient tarot interpretations because as I work through the formulas connected to the Pythagorean, which I'm focusing on today, and the Chaldean system, I eventually arrive at numbers 1 through 78. Those numbers correlate to the ancient tarot interpretations. So when my clients come to me for private readings, they receive an astrology report, a numerology report, and a tarot report, all about them. And so let's talk about numbers. Numbers are a language. They are a language that I interpret when I put together a full chart on every one of my clients, and each number winds up in the metaphorical room of you, of the house. All the vowels of your name, because your birth name is assigned. I assign a number, 1 through 9, to your birth name. Your birth name represents who you are accumulatively as human memories coming into this lifetime. It's your toolbox that you're bringing in here. And interestingly enough, every soul names itself. It telepathically, prior to birth, goes to the person or persons who eventually names it and says, hello, this is the name that I want. Because when I say that name, it is going to trigger from my subconscious memories of how to do human being experiences that I have worked upon in other lifetimes. Now, true, there are some memories that just aren't there, and they become challenges. They become karmic lessons. They become in your face for a lifetime in order for you to learn them, to get them into your subconscious, to know how to do that particular issue. The vowels of a person's name represents their emotional self. So when a person says to me, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a something else, from their life lesson, I say, no, you're not. Who you really are emotionally as soul coming into this lifetime comes from your vowels of your name. The vowels are the heavy hitters. How other people see you comes from the consonants. The consonants are like a perfume that you give off, consciously or unconsciously. But it is indeed how other people see you. I add all of those vowels and consonants together to get what is called a destiny number, a path of destiny number. It's like, okay, my vowels and my consonants are my tools coming in here. What am I supposed to do with all this? That's your path of destiny number. There is also a number, a code, that shows up later in life. For those of us that might be a little bit in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, this code, this experience, this issue shows up in early childhood, goes dormant, and around the age of 42 begins to peekaboo back up in our lives and intensifies and intensifies and intensifies as we mature and grow older. It's called the reality number, ultimate goal number, maturity number. I call it what you're here to be when you grow big. It is a secondary life path number. We can start out with one issue that is predominant, and we conquer that to a large degree as we mature. But then as we grow older, we have another one that needs some improvement. It's like a professor and an adjunct professor. Sometimes the original life lesson number and the maturity number are the same. That indicates that's a biggie, and that needs to be focused on from beginning to end. And so therefore the important thing to keep in mind is that as I go through the characteristics and qualities of the numbers 1 through 9, that how they get interpreted in your particular life, in your particular chart, in your particular experience, in having a reading with me, which I thoroughly explain it to you, depends on what room of the house it's in. How is it interpreted? As a challenge, as your emotional self, as a karmic lesson, as an issue that is very predominant for you to absorb and learn and grow from? It all depends. And the ancients knew what they were doing. They did not have the distractions of computers and iPads and televisions and music and radio. They had silence. And in the silence, their higher selves were able to communicate with higher mind. And they formulated that information into concrete form into concrete forms that we today call numerology, that we today call tarot, that we today call astrology. And that is why I bundle all of those ancient tools together to give you insight as to who you are as soul. What package did you put together to grow spiritually through human being experiences? Today we're going to focus on the numbers 1 through 9, keeping in mind that I also interpret numbers 1 through 8, the Chaldean system, and numbers 1 through 78, that are the ancient tarot, and all of that corresponds also with astrological interpretations. Every number has a positive side and a negative side. Most souls come into an incarnation with a good sampling of the positive. We all have some tweaking to do. Rarely, although it does happen, do souls come in with such an abundance of negative that they get themselves environmentally and emotionally in a lot of hot water. Because the soul always wants to work in the positive. And it will push and shove and push and shove and push and shove in order to get through experiences, through relationships, through government, through whatever, keeps pushing that particular individual towards the side of the positive. Doesn't always happen in a lifetime. Sometimes it takes a lot of lifetimes, depending upon how stubborn and bullheaded some and egotistical some souls are. But eventually, every soul gets there. We have in esoteric numerology what are called introverts and extroverts. Actually speaking, it is the total opposite of the psychological interpretations of introvert and extrovert. In psychology, an extrovert is that outgoing person, life of the party, jabberjaws, cheerleaders. The introvert is the bookworm, the silent one, the introspective one. In esoteric numerology, it's just the opposite. An introvert is that of someone who is assertive, who is aggressive, who goes outside of itself for advice and guidance, goes to the outer world, if you will. The introvert, the extrovert, does just the opposite. The extrovert will go inside, will go within, will think about things, will not go to outside forces or sources in order to receive guidance. They go within, just the opposite of modern day psychology. We also have masculine and feminine energy vibrations. Some numbers are more intellectual, masculine, assertive. Some are more feminine, sensitive, and intuitive. Let's talk about these numbers 1 through 9. They have a positive side and a negative side. I'm going to give you just a few characteristics of each of the number 9s. The number 1, it is called the downstroke of God. Downstroke of God. It's like throwing a sword in the sand. The downstroke of God is the number 1. It's an odd number. Cannot be divided by itself. It is very introverted and very masculine, and astrologically is ruled by the sun. It's very active, has qualities that are very assertive. If this is your personality, if this is your soul number, if this is your emotional self, if this is how other people see you, and all of that can only be determined by formula and formula in a chart that I prepare for you in a reading. But nevertheless, the number 1 is very courageous, very determined, very authority figure. I'm the boss, you do as I say. Can be very self-reliant, very inventive, very venturesome and independent, and very individualistic. Likes to be a leader, is not a follower. But on the negative side of the number 1, can also be arrogant and antagonistic, and very boastful, rather dictatorial, a little quarrelsome, a little self-centered. Look at me, I'm Sandra D. Very egotistical, has that conceited, pompous, impatient, willful demeanor, all about it. The number 2, on the other hand, as a personality, as a lesson to be learned, as learning how to be, is just the opposite. The number 2 is an extrovert. Remember, it's opposite than psychology. The number 2 goes inside. The number 2 is a feminine energy, and it's ruled by the moon. In the positive, it's really considerate, very agreeable, whatever you want, dear, very codependent. Some would call it cooperative. But when there's too many letters in a birth name that have the number 2 equivalent, we're talking about codependency. It's very tolerant, very sincere, has some musical qualities depending upon how many 2's equivalents are in a birth name. It can be very diplomatic, very tactful, and very persuasive, or some would say rather manipulative. In the negative, can be kind of scheming because of the intuitiveness. They pay attention and they can pick up intuitively this side of the fence and that side of the fence, that issue, this issue, and play 2 ends against the middle. They can be a little bullheaded, stubborn, very, very intolerant, very disapproving, picky, can be quarrelsome, can be a little duplicitous, a little bit of behind your back, if you will. You will see, as I talk to you about the numbers 1 through 9, it's somewhat like a roller coaster. The universe and higher mind is all about balance. When people have too many 1s, they need some 2's. They need the counteraction. So number 1's assertive aggressive, number 2 is pulls back. We come to number 3, which is out there, Miss Sunshine. It is an energy that is it's an extrovert, and it too is ruled by the energy that is Jupiter, Big Daddy Jupiter, the Daddy Warbucks of the astrology, of the zodiac, of the heavens. We love Jupiter. Those that have a 3 are very creative. They probably have the song that is the happiness song that is so prevalent now. These are happy people. They are very optimistic and imaginative and effervescent. They're very appreciative and friendly and sociable. They're like little hummingbirds, into this, into that, into something else. It is an energy that has quite possibly the smiley face would be its logo, if you will. But they can be a little scattered. And when they operate in the negative, they are rather ostentatious, flamboyant. It creates an energy of flamboyance that draws attention to them because the number 3 is very theatrical. It is the actor or actress on the stage. They can be extremely verbose. They never shut up. They talk and talk and talk and talk and talk to the point where they push people away from them. The reason The reason for that is that the number 3 is shy. It really throws off an energy of extrovert, of talking, of everybody's friend at the party, of the actor on the stage, but they are shy. They keep everybody at a distance with their words or their behaviors because they do not want anyone to come inside and know who they really, really, really are. They can be snobs, very gossipy, and need to watch out for gossip. The number 4 is just the opposite. Sometimes the number 4, you have to pry information out of their mouths. The number 4 is an extrovert vibration, which is the opposite, means that number 4 people go inside. Shh. They don't talk. This is also ruled by the sun. It kind of rules Taurus and Capricorn, probably is very significant in their astrological chart. The number 4 is very work-oriented, very disciplined, very dedicated and confident, likes to work methodically, where the number 3 is like, I got this idea and let's just do it and blah, 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 blah. Number 4 says, how you going to do that? Let's sit down. Let's blueprint it out. Number 4s are very economical, frugal. Some would say tightwads, actually. They're very constructive, very mechanical energy, and are serious but very trustworthy. The salt of the earth. In the negative, they are potentially very inflexible, narrow-minded, dogmatic, restricted, unyielding, headstrong, thick-skinned, and even dishonest. They want what they want when they want it. Now the number 5 is our adventuresome energy. The number 5 is very much an energy of flexibility, of adventuresomeness. It is an introvert number. It rules Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini. And know that their favorite saying is, I can do anything you can do, as the lyric of the song says, and you know, I can do it even better. They are what I call the Christine and Christopher Columbuses of the numerological world. They are the adventuresome folks. They don't necessarily plan things out. They'll jump off a cliff without a bungee cord. They are excellent communicators. They like the new and the unusual and the bohemian. Very independent. Do not like to take advice from anybody else. Very intuitive, very spontaneous. Okay, let's jump off a cliff. Let's do it. Their flexibility is phenomenal. They're like bamboo. Very enthusiastic, very versatile, very unconventional, rather bohemian, if you will, but also very enterprising. In the negative, the number 5 can be impulsive, can be kind of afraid, can be very overactive. That brings on a shallowness, not thinking things through. Somewhat eccentric, like the new and the different from the norm, different from the number 4, that's for sure. Frivolous, perhaps, but in their value system, they're not frivolous. It's all according to what they think is the right thing. Why not? The number 5 energy pushes the envelope and actually pushes civilization forward. The number 6 is an extrovert, ruled by Venus, beautiful Venus. It is an energy that has buzzwords, responsibility, humanitarianism, likes peace and harmony, especially in family life, relationship life, and is very justice oriented. This number 6, whether it's a personality, a soul number, an outer number, a lesson to learn, depends on where the room of the house it appears, how I interpret it for you. But nevertheless, these single numbers are what it is. 2 is a 2, 3 is a 3, 6 is a 6. The number 6 is very benevolent, loves to share, very supportive and appreciative, is trustworthy, charitable, dutiful, family comes first, very honorable, and very philanthropic. They are people-oriented vibrations. Make excellent parents, make excellent teachers, excellent medical people and counselors if it is their lesson to learn, almost to a fault. They need to learn to take care of themselves first, and then everybody else in the family and the community. These are not necessarily Mother Teresa people. They are dealing more with family and community. In the negative, the number 6 is kind of vindictive. You don't want to cross them. Possessive. Can be whiny and pessimistic. Can be fault-finding. This is the negative side. It's kind of suspicious. Not sure about everybody and everything. Can hold resentment. Can be hostile. And in the real negative, can be very unfeeling. As we move to the number 7, from the number 6, which is all heart, all emotion, we go more and more into the number 7, which is what I call the Greta Garbo number. I want to be alone. This number, ruled by Neptune, is not necessarily the most grounded vibration in the world. It is an energy that has to do with wisdom and understanding and analysis and spirituality and specialization. These are the experts energetically. These are the researchers. Very intuitive, however, have excellent psychic intuitive abilities, can be really studious, very imaginative, because if they open to their intuitiveness, they connect to the spirit world. Very technical, kind of a calm, laid-back personality. But in the negative, they can be impatient because they're very analytical, reclusive, extremist, eccentric, nervous, and kind of cunning. The number 8 takes it out again to the real world, out of the introspection, out of the aloneness of the number 7, and into practicality, management, organization. This is Saturn energy. The number 8 is Saturn, the Lord of Karma, and depending upon where it appears in the chart, gotta watch out, because the Lord of Karma just might be in play in your life, in your year, or in this moment of time. The key words for the number 8 are organization and judgment and balance and materialism and success and power and authority, and it keeps building. These are the managers. These are the organizers. They're very decisive, very disciplined, very enterprising, make the best CEOs, the best managers for any kind of group, the best builders, the best architects, because they have a broader perspective than just the plain old organization. They organize and then they manage the organization. Very successful, very venturesome, and very pioneering. On the other hand, the number 8 in the negative can be a total tyrant, very restrictive. This is what I think it should be. Work within this frame. work within this framework can be very unyielding because they're working within a structure. Somewhat fanatical, some of them. Rebellious, cold-blooded, can even lean towards fraudulent activities, and above all be very, very aggressive. As we get to the tail end of the numbers 1 through 9, the numbers 9 totals all of the qualities and characteristics together, puts them all in a basket as a temperament, as a behavior, as a choice. The number 9 is ruled by Mars, yes, the god of war, but it is selfless, all-encompassing. And here we have humanitarianism. Here we have the Mother Teresa influence, complex qualities, if you will. Very hospitable and compassionate, idealistic, very benevolent and broad-minded. This is not a prejudicial temperament or number. Very creative, loves drama, loves theater, loves politics actually. Very enlightened and understanding, and has a quality of humility about it. It encompasses, the number 9 has a piece of every single one of the previous 8 within its vibration. In the negative, unfortunately, the number 9 can be unsympathetic, very prejudiced, uninvolved, resentful, bitter, narrow-minded, and overly willful, because the number 9 in the negative is about control. Keeping control because of fear, because of inability to really feel the joy of its own heart. You've just traveled through the wonderful codes that make up numbers. Numbers are magical because they explain to you pieces of you that will bring clarity to you, that will empower you, that will help you as human move forward in your own life, will help you understand possibly other people, and know that I would be honored and humbled to do a reading for you that will see, share, talk about the numbers that are in your particular chart. Go to my website, ElizabethSummers.com, or The Magical World of Numbers. Listen to my radio show on Blog Talk Radio every Wednesday night, The Magical World of Numbers radio show, where I will take you on a magic carpet ride every Wednesday night. I hope you have learned a lot from this carpet ride, allowing me to take you through the numbers 1 through 9 that are huge indicators of who you are. And so, as we have to get back on our carpet, as the time has come to an end to leave this galaxy, thank you for listening. I am always here for you. And until we meet again, know that I send you God's white light and His peace and His harmony, and know that I wish you all good things. And thank you so much for joining me in the magical world of numbers.